is just a very special lady. And so, please welcome Trisha.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Buddy, my service dog. Buddy, can you lay down, please? Buddy has been the only dependable male in my life for the past 2 years. It's been that way since my husband left me. He left the weekend that the pandemic began. And I remember being in our closet area and he's packing his things and we're kind of talking, but we're, kind of not talking too because I'm kind of in shock. And I'm watching him and I'm thinking, if he packs my CrossFit hoodie, I'm gonna fucking kill him because, it's bad enough that he's leaving, but then if he takes my CrossFit hoodie, that would just be the ultimate sin. But he didn't, and he left, and I put my hoodie on and I sat at the end of my bed and I thought, wow, this is my life now. He moved to a studio apartment in Riverside, the vibrant, culturally enriching, diverse neighborhood of Riverside. He left me in Ponte Vedra with 3 teenagers, 3 dogs, and a fish named Celine Dion. And if you know Ponte Vedra, you know that it's a very wealthy community. It's a very beautiful place. They have amazing schools, which is why we moved there. Beautiful beaches, gorgeous landscaping. Our grass is literally greener than yours. But it's also not really me. I mean, it's a very conservative and a very predictable neighborhood. It's a very safe place to live. There's an air of uniformity about it. If you live in a neighborhood in Ponte Vedra, you probably have a homeowners association that tells you what color you have to paint your house and what your lawn should look like. And if you make any changes at all to your house, you have to ask permission. And I'm not really like that. I'm kind of messy. I'm a little bit of free-spirited and spontaneous. And I like to do things different with my yard. I like to put signs in my yard that are not allowed. And the homeowners association sends me letters and I take the signs down and then they forget about it. I put the signs back up and we go back and forth. I actually got a letter from a woman one time calling me a PETA. I was like, a PETA? What is that? I had to Google it. It stands for pain in the ass. So I am a Ponte Vedra PETA. So I'm living in Ponte Vedra as a PETA and I'm trying to do 2 really hard things. The first is that I'm trying to raise my children to be unabashedly themselves. I want them to be brave and unique, and I want them to feel free to express themselves the way they are and not the way they think they should be, right? They are children of color. My children were adopted. My oldest one I adopted from Vietnam, and the youngest 2 I adopted from Guatemala. And so, as children of color, they're automatically kind of other, because Ponte Vedra is 97% white. My children, though, have been amazing. I think I've been fairly successful in telling them, I want you to be you, no matter who you are. I am proud of you. I want you to be utterly yourself. My daughter is in college. My son and other daughter are both at Ponte Vedra High School. So my son is 17. He is gay. He's a musical theater buff. He loves New York City and origami. And he is decorating his room right now in a boho aesthetic. He said, do you know what a boho means, Mom? I'm like, oh yeah, we invented boho. But I love who he is, and I love that he's not afraid to be himself. My younger daughter is 15. She plays 3 instruments. She has described her style as fairy goth. I would describe it as like Lolita fairy goth. I asked her one time, how come you don't get dress coded, honey? And she said, I don't know. And I said, I think maybe the teachers are afraid of you. And she said, they should be. So I was like, oh, okay. She's very into the supernatural, and she likes to do tarot cards and crystals, and I have found bowls of salt under my threshold, and I don't know what that means, but it's okay with me. It doesn't bother me at all. The second really hard thing I'm doing is trying to figure out who I am. Because when you're married for 26 years, together for 30 years, and you lose that part of you, it's kind of like an amputation. I mean, I found myself very unbalanced. I was unable to see who I am, because when you have somebody to bounce yourself off of, you feel secure in that. Like, okay, somebody gets who I am and appreciates that. And that person was gone. So I've got to figure out who I am again in this place that, again, values conformity. And it's a wealthy neighborhood, and you know wealth can buy you an extended period of beauty, right? And it's a certain standard of beauty, maybe a traditional standard of beauty. There's a lot of beauty in Ponte Vedra. There's a lot of Botox and a lot of filler and a lot of really cute clothes. And I'm kind of not like that. And I don't really begrudge people who are like that. It's just that it's not me. I mean, sometimes I might begrudge them a little bit just because, you know, like eyelid surgery wouldn't be terrible. But I don't really want to do that. I am just a little different. I don't wear a lot of makeup. I don't wear cute clothes. I thrift most of my clothes, actually. I have tattoos. I only shower outside because I have this amazing outdoor I'm a little bit feral, if you want to know the truth. And I don't feel like I have a tribe around me in Ponte Vedra who can look at me and say, you know, you're different, but you're okay. I told my kid's therapist, because I borrow my kid's therapist sometimes, I said, I feel hideous is what I feel like. I feel really just hideous. And it reminded me of when I was 12 years old and I switched schools from this small suburban parochial school to an upper crust, all-girls private Catholic school in uptown New Orleans. And I didn't know it was a snobby school, but it was. And we had uniforms we wore, but one day a month we could wear regular clothes. So the first day I showed up wearing regular clothes. I was so excited. I wore my favorite outfit, which was this yellow pantsuit. It was a yellow cotton pantsuit with a big zebra applique right here and right here. See, now you know already that this is a terrible thing to wear to a school. I can tell because you're laughing. But I thought it was the most fabulous thing. I mean, I loved wildlife, and I mean, anyway. So the first person to say something to me was Elizabeth Kubel. She said, I like your outfit. And I said, thank you very much, because I thought but then I saw her sneering, and I knew that she was making fun of me. It had been my favorite pantsuit, but I never wore it again, and we had to go shopping that weekend because I needed to buy all straight-legged pants and alligator shirts, Lacoste alligator shirts, and topsiders, because I wanted to be like everybody else, because I wasn't brave enough to be myself. My friends say, you will find someone who appreciates who you are. And I've hopped on the dating apps for a quick minute here or there. It did not go well. The first time I used as my profile picture, I was holding a chainsaw and I had this t-shirt that said, the t-shirt said smash the patriarchy. But I thought, you know, thank you. I wanted people to know who I was. You know, the therapist says, well, you know, maybe if you were trying to sell a house, you improve the curb appeal. So maybe you could just improve your curb appeal. But I just feel like that's so much trouble. I want people to see me for who I am. So I was utterly uninterested in the guy who tried to like me, who said he could lick his own eyebrow, and I didn't think that was a very marketable skill at all. There was another guy, though, who said, what's your unforgivable thing in a relationship? What's unforgivable? And I thought, that's a really good question. I mean, not for him to ask, but for me to ask myself. And I thought, what is unforgivable for me? And I thought, well, narcissism, uncontrollable anger, racism, homophobia, inability to love my kids, inability to love my dog. I wrote all this to him, and then I should have written public toenail clipping, but I didn't write that. But I wrote all this, and he deleted me immediately, which was okay, because I deleted the app. And I thought, you know what, I am just now trying to figure out who I am. Why do I have to explain myself to somebody else when I can barely explain myself to myself? Thank you, guys. I had, as a little girl, a pony. We had this cabin in the woods, and I used to love to ride this pony bareback through the woods. My dad had these trails that he had carved through the woods with his tractor, and I'd get up early in the morning and I'd hop bareback on my pony, and I would ride singing, "Happy trails to you," because I envisioned myself being on the Roy Rogers show. And I was so utterly happy with my place in the world. I mean, I knew who I was. I knew where I was. I was like, I don't care where I'm going. I can just be going to that next tree, but it's where I'm supposed to be, and I'm who I'm supposed to be. And it didn't matter what polyester abomination I was wearing. I looked great. I want to be like that now. I want to be able to live in Ponte Vedra and say, this is who I am. This is okay. I used to deep sea fish a lot with my dad. My dad was ever on a quest for the great blue marlin, and he caught several blue marlins. When you catch a blue marlin, a big blue marlin, like multi-hundred pounds, you get them on the boat. And as soon as they come through the transom, the first thing my dad would do, we used to call him Captain Safety. He was so afraid of someone getting hurt. But when a fish gets out of the water and it's on the boat, it starts thrashing, right? Because it's out of the water. And my dad was always terrified the fish would throw the hook. And so he had what we called a tuna stick. And he would take the fish by the bill and he would beat the head to stun it because he didn't want it to throw the hook. And something would happen to this fish. It would start glowing. It was like this beautiful, effervescent glow. It was just an amazing creature. It was phenomenal to see. So here's this beautiful creature, and you beat it, and it glows and glows and glows, and then it dies. But you don't have to do it that way. I caught a blue marlin once. It was only 200 pounds. We got it up to the boat, and we held it by the bill, and we took a picture, and we took the hook out because we were going to release it. And we released that fish back into the water. And it did not dive back into the ocean and swim with all the other fish. It started jumping and twirling. It tail walked. It was like psh, 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 psh. It was amazing. And I think I can be like that fish. I can be in the water, and I can be who I am among all these other creatures that perhaps are not like me. But every once in a while, I can jump up out of the water and say, here I am. Thank you very much.
Yeah!
Buddy, come.
I love Buddy.
That tail never stops wagging.
The whole time, it's just like, I can,